Yes. Hello everyone. Welcome back to this third session of today. Okay. So welcome back to this session of today. We will be speaking of the documentation, workflows, and generally what is the future outlook for the modern, the upgraded Office. Now, this is going to take about 2.5 hours of discussion. However, if you need anything or if you want to raise your hand or whatever, please feel free to chat in, to write a comment in the chat, and we will try to discuss and keep up to it. Now, so that, let's start this session. Now, there it is. Today's agenda, we will be discussing about document workflows. What are the workflows? What the documents is okay? Document workflows, an introduction to the workflow. What is a workflow? How is it managed? The managerial perspective of documentation, and we'll be discussing a little bit about the business process management, what business process management is, and how this can be achieved for upgrading the activities, the processes in a modern company. Now, the idea behind this training session, this concept, is that an upgraded office needs to get a lot of documentation, of information in terms of documentation, has to manage this documentation, and has to disseminate this documentation to all of the relevant stakeholders. It continues yesterday's courses, and it will be concluded with the courses during the next 3 days about the single window. So the idea behind this is that, well, if you try to reconsider, to re-engineer the processes, as this is called, if you try to re-engineer this, it's going to be a lot more easier to redefine some age-old, some legacy processes, and it will be a lot more easier to upgrade those processes. I mean, most of the companies, especially the larger of them, the large corporations, and of course the government itself, has legacy processes in place that, although they are super efficiency in terms of capturing information and keeping the information in one place, it is not that efficient, or at least this is experience talking now. Many researchers have said that it's not quite efficient to have a bit of information, a bit of data stored somewhere without being able to use it, to manipulate it, to improve your efficiency, to take decisions, or to take actions. So this is why we need to see all this documentation from point zero. We have to redefine these processes, these activities, these workflows, and we have to come up with new processes that will be able to capture information in a better way, in a data-intensive environment, in a data-intensive business context, use this sort of information and take decisions based on this information. Now, said that, some introduction. So, why are we moving to a paperless organization? Well, the idea is that, well, of course, goes without saying, paper-based organizations and corporations and companies, from the smaller ones to the bigger ones. Okay. Just give us a second to stop the video, the camera. Is the key? Super. So from small organizations up to big organizations, the idea is that paper-based processes are not efficient anymore. So why are these processes not efficient anymore? Well, of course, the main ideas are that the legal compliance and the upgrading the restrictions that are imposed through higher compliance gives a lot of pressure to the companies. So the companies have to capture the relevant information and store it somewhere and be readily available to send this information, provide this information to all of the competent authorities that are requesting this sort of information. Of course, there are a lot of security and confidentiality threats in this process. So who has this sort of document, the bill of lading, the invoice? Can I see it? And especially nowadays, it's even more easier. We all have a smartphone and we can get a picture out of an invoice. What if this invoice is sort of preferential pricing in there, and the competitor will start complaining or even rejecting the supplier based on this preferential pricing that the supplier, for example, might have introduced to one of his clients. Of course, changes in work environment, being able nowadays to work from pretty much all over the world 24/7. Of course, collaborative practices these days, more collaboration between different departments that might be geographically distant one another, and so on and so forth, require moving to a paperless organization. Of course, there is the technology availability. Technology is readily there to support working on a paperless mode rather than on a paper-based mode. Of course, there are CSR-related concepts there, including the sustainable development and the greening. Imagine all the tons of paper that moves around. What if we could somehow handle all this paperwork without the paper, but at the same time having the same sort of information, the same level of information? Crisis environment. What if something happens in your supply chain? If you had to wait for the paper to arrive to the headquarters, then this would impose a high risk in decision making, especially under uncertainty over there. So you have to move fast, you have to act quickly over there. And of course, you have all these new companies that are purely based on paperless environments that have, based on this approach, they have a better cost structure and thus seem to be more competitive, more agile compared to the legacy companies. Now, we have to say that paper documentation slows down the company. All the processes are quite lengthy, and we will see it later on today with some sample processes. Are quite lengthy, as I said, which increases resource requirements, both in terms of people, where also in terms of capital expenditures. All of the different people being there, trying to handle all these papers, the paperwork, moving around, trying to comply themselves with the processes and the requirements, both corporate-wise and government-wise. It reduces profitability. Ultimately, it reduces competitiveness. And of course, responsiveness, and especially in the context of the resilient enterprise, the reduction in the responsiveness and to the compliance is restricting the company from being competitive. It is restricting the competitive advantage of the companies. Now, Another thing that we have to consider before even starting this whole document workflow analysis is change. We've said before that in this context of re-engineering, redefining, rethinking of the processes, we have to change something. Oh well, this change is not always well perceived in the context of a big corporation, or even more importantly in the context of government. There is a lot of failure out there. A lot of projects have failed, and this is something that you have to consider before even starting this upgrading in your company. And the thing is, the sad truth is that 42% of the company, the failures comes from leadership. In terms of the corporate leadership is not in favor at all of this change, or it is afraid of change, or it does not back up correctly or sufficiently the change management issues, the change management processes in the company. And of course this is followed by cultural things. The corporate culture, if it's sort of more legacy inclined, they would resist in changing the practices. I mean, imagine some of us who were quite accustomed to this age-old approach of having a single document and moving around with this document, let's say a customs declaration, and moving around the different departments in the port in order to get a physical signature, then going to the customs offices to get another signature, then going to phytosanitary, veterinary authorities to get another signature, then going back to the customs authorities to get another signature, then going back, returning to the port to get the final signature in order for a container, an import container, to be released. So this sort of culture was not easily amended in many of the cases, and unfortunately a lot of countries, even in the European Union nowadays, struggle in order to accept the new modus operandi, the new way of doing business. If you go to specific authorities, they still, even if there is in principle, the electronic signature has been introduced, there is a lot of resistance. They still require physical signature, and they would not accept something, a document with an e-signature. Now, this is a cultural thing, and this sort of may lead to failure in a change project, in a BPR, in a document workflow upgrading project. Now, again, this all comes back to the human element there. In 92% of the cases, change efforts really fail because of people. People are the ones that will be using a new process, a new approach. People are those that will be using new equipment, and people are those that will be moving forward or not. So in all these cases, it goes back to, fires back to humans. Now, some issues that I would like you to keep in mind, and these come with experience from working in this sector, in these domains. Managing change in paperless projects require two huge sets of sub-projects, of sub-activities. First of all, you have to be quite specific. What will you be changing, and how will you be changing this? What is the transition procedure? How are we going to move from the legacy processes to the new ones? What is the impact? And this is especially necessary for the leadership of the companies or of the political leadership. what the impact is going to be in terms of cost or in terms of time, both to day-to-day operations up to tactical and to strategic decisions, strategic levels and strategic operations. We have to map down the chains, and we have to be quite clear in in depicting the systems, the processes, and the people that are involved in these chains, in this BPR. And of course, we have to be realistic. Up to now, unfortunately, I have seen quite many times a lot of fluffy ideas, fluffy high-level objectives that at the end of the day cannot really be met. That's a huge issue there. If you say that you will change the way companies interact or work, or even governments and countries, unfortunately, this is very, very hard to achieve it, and it has a lot of possibilities to fail. And then again, moving on forward, you have to be quite clear in communicating and quite engaged in communicating this project. Especially for the key stakeholders, all of them have to be not only in the information loop, they have to accept and they have to take up all these ideas, these change ideas. Of course, collecting feedback, how the process goes, the change process, the change management is going from the actual users should also be quickly collected. And all the change management has to be accordingly adapted in this case. Of course, you have to train, you have to educate, and you have to communicate across practical, simple issues, especially in day-to-day operations. How will you be working from implementation onwards? What is the case? If there are any problems, what are the problems that are going to be anticipated? Or if there are any questions from the end users, the clients of the actual users within a company or within a process, what these problems might be and how this would be tackled. These are all issues that have to be communicated, and the organization, the entire organization, has to get a lot of support from the change management team, and the change management team has to stay very, very close to the organization. Now, well, I have a very, very specific case that I would like to discuss now that is pertinent to the motorways of the sea and to the shipping industry and logistics industries in general. Submitting the necessary paperwork is not, unfortunately, always an easy task. For those of you that have a bird's eye or a hands-on idea of what is really happening or what really happened in the shipping industry, well, actually, it's sort of a nightmare for this industry, all the paperwork that is required. A ton of different documents moving around, having to get physical signatures in most of the cases, if not in all of the cases. And of course, all these documents, if you could collect, or if you have collected this information, it's like one document duplicating another one. So in each case, you had to redraft another document with pretty much the same sort of information and resend it to another competent authority, to an additional competent authority, to have it signed and have it released in order for you to go to the next step, the next node in your documentation chain. In contrast to what we were saying yesterday, to get to the next node in order to get another approval before your cargo was released or your ship was released. The existing situations with regard to the reporting formalities for ships are actually administered at the moment mainly by either the ship master or the ship agent, the shipping agent. And most of them are complied with the port state control inspections, are pertinent to the IMO FAL forms, the notification, the advanced notifications, that is. They are also related to the ISPS code with regards to the safety and security of the systems. Are also related to the VTM directive, Vessel Traffic Monitoring Directive, that is, and are notifications for the safe CNET that have to move on through the information chain. And of course, customs declarations, both for import or for export, and all the related to the customs declarations that are needed. Again, I'm telling you, you're going to see it in the next slides, it's a ton of paperwork that has to be submitted. For example, imagine, consider, a container ship that unloads something like 2,000 containers in a port that it calls. 2,000 containers, you have to prepare 2,000 different documentation, and that is only if the containers are FCL, full container loads, and contain one shipment from one client and to one destination within this country. You have to prepare 2,000 different forms for this one. Now extrapolate this in LCL containers, less than container load shipments, that is, that have to be dispatched not only within a EU member state, but some of them have to be transited, others have to be transshipped, and these have to be complied, have to be adhered to specific duties and rulings for calculating duties. So it's a nightmare from the compliance perspective. The thing is now that although the content of most of these forms are somewhat standardized, I mean all the organizations have standardized their forms, there are a lot of issues that have to be addressed. For example, the interpretation of the timing rules. So what needs to be submitted 72 or 24 2 hours before arrival. It differs from state to state. Many additional national or port-specific requirements. For example, in most of the cases, a simple notification or a simple order form for fresh water is enough. But in other cases, fresh water replenishment orders are quite a nightmare for specific cases, or waste management, waste collection orders. Again, in many countries, the shipping formalities are still sent manually, and the issue is that you have to staple most of the times yourself to the document, move around in order to get physical signatures in most of the cases. And of course, the idea of standardization, well, up to a point is this issue has been solved, but there is another set of authorities that might have different ideas on what a clearance might be and what sort of risks come in with accepting or rejecting cargo, with interoperability issues and stuff like that. So let's see a quite straightforward diagram. Let's see a quite straightforward diagram which depicts the main ship formalities that we're going to be discussing especially tomorrow with the single window. These are actually the ship formalities that any ship has to submit 72 hours, 3 days before arrival, up to the arrival and the departure. So in these cases, the same ship, let's say that the route is calling, the specific service is calling 5 or 6 different ports in the European Union, you have to submit the same documentation in all the different ports. And by the way, its competent authority up to a couple of months ago or a couple of years ago, its competent authority required this documentation to be submitted in the local language. So if you would call in 5 or 6 ports, you have to have all these documents prepared in 5 or 6 different languages, especially if a port was in another country. And then you had to give this documentation not only to one single competent authority, but to many different competent authorities. The idea these days, and this is what we'll be discussing tomorrow, moving on to paperless environments will facilitate an easier exchange of information among the different national authorities, the different national competent authorities, that is, among the different EU competent authorities, so that everyone in this information chain will submit it only once, and then the competent authorities themselves will have to be will be responsible to fuse this information, to send this information to the other competent authorities that would like to have this sort of information, will have to access this sort of information so as to decide. And again, this is one of the perspectives. This is the B2G, B2A, business to agency or business to government perspective. This sort of idea is also pertinent to the B2B, the business to business environment. Now, again, a small comment there. Many different reporting formalities, especially those that are external to the shipping or logistics companies. These things will be tackled from the single windows that we'll be discussing tomorrow. The office doesn't have this sort of information on paper anymore. It keeps this information electronically, and this information is sent electronically to all the competent authorities, and then the competent authorities fuse again this information electronically to other relevant competent authorities. For example, the port authorities will send this information, will be the first, let's say, interface that collects this information and will send it to customs authorities, to veterinary inspection authorities, immigration authorities, for example, customs clearance, to everyone that has to have this sort of information. Everyone that has to have this information will have it. The thing is that you have to aim a little bit big now. Okay, you have the slide now. You have to aim big. The next generation single windows have to be as inclusive as possible. They have to include all the different subsystems that are there and have to facilitate trade and facilitate operations from the transport companies, from the shipping companies, from the logistics companies, from everyone in the supply chain. Of course, these new systems that are to be developed, they should provide regulatory information in standardized formats, irrespective of the destination of the mode, and this is a big pressure, a big thing on the shoulders of the European Commission to standardize across the 28 European countries, plus 3 or plus 4, depending on how you see it. They have to standardize this information. They have to submit information electronically, and they have to accept and collect this information electronically. and they need to enforce these regulations efficiently and effectively across the different nodes in the chains, and they have to easily manage the changes that they have to have a change management, as we said in the first slides. They have to have a change management plan in place for all the problems that will be arising from the new regulations. Again, this is one of the perspectives, one of the sides of the coin. The same thing applies to B2B systems. I mean, nowadays you have to prepare everything in print, in writing. In the next generation systems, in the systems 2B, you will prepare it electronically, you will submit it electronically, which also means that you will have, as a company, as an operator in a company, you will collect this information yourself electronically. For example, if you are in a shipping company, you will, and you are a transport operator that prepares the bills of lading, you will collect from the different freight forwarders, from the different agents, from all the relevant actors, the relevant operators in this activity. You will collect the information and you will prepare it electronically, and then you will send this information to the next in line in order to further prepare it, to further administer this information, in order to send it to the next node, on and on and on again, until the final destination or the final process is concluded. Now, some relevant experience, we try to set up a similar system in a couple of ports and a couple of freight forwarders and a couple of shipping agents, and the results were quite eye-opening. Before, when we had to prepare everything in print, and we had to send everything in print in order for a very specific operation, for a very specific submission of ship formalities, which is the entry level, sort of speaking, process in this workflow. The average time that was needed in order to prepare everything and in order for everything to be ready and to be submitted, it took up to 7.4 hours for each operation. After the introduction of the Phase A system that prepared everything electronically, and all of the actors were going through the preparations electronically through their systems online, it dropped to a little bit less than 3 hours. And the port community collaborative, in terms of port community collaborative solutions, that is, fusing this information to the relevant stakeholders, that is an extended, sort of speaking, information chain compared to the first case, the average time that was needed dropped from, let's say, about 12 hours to less than 5 hours, which is a huge number if you consider all the months, the person months that are invested in companies. It's a huge number, and extrapolate this to huge port complexes, container complexes, where millions of containers are loaded or unloaded each year. Imagine how much time, how many resources are saved from going digital. Now, in the previous case, that was the base case on your left, and on your right, that was the first phase. We actually removed a couple of documents, and we sent in the business process engineering, and we've sent everything electronically. Up to now, for example, the ship owner, the captain of the ship, had to prepare and submit all the ship sanitization, the certificates, liability certificates, pre-arrival notices to the sea page, and then the sea page had to prepare it and send it to the competent authority, the competent maritime authority, the Coast Guard, stuff like that. In the case that we studied, all of this was done electronically, and of course in this re-engineering we also identified a lot of documents that were either completely duplicative or the majority of the information was duplicative, or the information was irrelevant anymore for this authority, and we removed these documents. The rest of them were reaching their destination, their ultimate destination, electronically. Now, you saw how much we save in terms of time, and we can, if we put this in money terms, it's even higher. Now, let's have a look at the managerial perspectives of document workflows. We will be discussing a little bit more about how and why this is necessary in this section, why this workflow, the documentation, the document workflow has to be changed and has to be moved on forward to digital processes, digital-wise processes. Now, there are a lot of different definitions there, quite many definitions. Some of them are quite similar, some of them are not that similar. Let's have a look at them. First of all, when we say electronic document management, we usually imply the management of different kinds of documents in an enterprise using computer programs and storage only. Of course, the idea behind this is that there are two sorts of interfaces there, the machine-to-machine, where the databases, the systems store strings of information, of data, and the human interface where people will be seeing the same form that they were using up to then. For example, with a PDF system, a PDF reproduction system, the interfaces translates, if I could say so, the strings of information, they translate them to forms. Why? Simply put, people cannot understand sequential numbers, but they can easily understand numbers that have a specific context and a specific place somewhere. So that's the whole idea there. And of course, another idea is that systems can easily replicate the basic layout of the forms, and this enables them to save on bandwidth, to save on resources in general. Now, document management, and what's the difference with electronic document management? It's the capturing and the management of documents within an organization. Well, although we are aiming for the complete digitization, at the moment there are a lot of documents that are moved around in digital forms. The companies have to have a physical storage of these documents. However, the idea is to try to digitize as much as possible these documents, so that you can share, you can fuse this information as easily as possible. The enterprise content management system includes all the technologies, all the tools, all the methods that are used to capture, manage, store, preserve, deliver, fuse information, content and documents relating to all the organizational processes. For example, the purchase orders are stored somewhere. The information actually is stored somewhere, and then when, for example, the accounts payable department wants to have a look on previous purchase orders or on standing purchase orders, it can go through this enterprise content management system and access them see them, take decisions based on them. Workflow. Workflow is the automatic routing of documents to the users responsible for working on them. It's actually who does what and when. You describe it, you depict it somewhere, and this is a workflow. You know afterwards how this activity will be executed or who is responsible to execute an activity. And of course, who's to take the blame or to take the pride of successfully or unsuccessfully executing an activity. The business process management in this sense is a systematic approach that is employed in order to improve the organizational processes that are used. You have a process. In most of the cases, this process are tacitly developed initially, and then at a certain point of time they have to be explicitly addressed and explicitly described. This happened X amount of time ago. Nowadays, if there is a requirement to change it, to improve it, to put something different or address the issue differently, you have to go there, you have to see this process from the beginning, and you have to upgrade it or update it or change it in any case. And last but not least, document imaging is actually the online storage and the retrieval and the management of electronic images of documents. What you've said before, document management, it's actually an electronic system that captures this information in terms of images, of scans. It's actually the multifunction systems that are used nowadays. Most of the larger corporations that have moved on and have adopted 100% digitized operations, they use the electronic entry or the entry office that digitizes everything that comes into the company and fuses this information to all of the relevant stakeholders in the process within the company. Now, business challenges, why? That's an age-old question, actually. However, from the managerial point of view, paper-intensive are most of the times inefficient processes. So most of the companies have moved on forward in order to automate the workflow for the processes that they have adopted, they have employed. Of course, they also need to gain new levels of efficiency without adding more staff. For example, if you need to, you're a freight forwarder, you need to accommodate more container traffic or more ships. With legacy systems, you have to employ more people in order to prepare things and prepare documents and paperwork. With digitized, with electronic documentation, you just have to add storage and add processing capacity actually to your computers, nothing more than that. Also, in addition to that, there is the need to eliminate paper processing and reallocate staff to value-added work. Instead of just checking papers, you can do something more valuable to the company. It also solves issues of processing and distributing paperwork across different departments and different locations. For example, what we've said before about the container ship. The container ship arrives, you have all the documentation ready, but what if in paperwork, in paper-based systems, that is, in physical form, but what if this sort of documentation has to be this cargo has to be transshipped or transited somewhere else? Then you have to go there, you have to attach all of the paperwork on the container, and then the container can be released and can be transited somewhere else. This increases costs, it reduces competitiveness, it needs more people to do that, more resources, and so on and so forth. Streamlining order preparation and response times. If something happens, something bad, heaven forbid, happens to your supply chain, and then you have the customs authorities coming in and asking for specific cargoes, specific containers. If you have a physical documentation system, document management system, then you have to start searching through all of the documents. If you have it online, you have a digital system, then this retrieval is even quicker. Of course, the other thing is that this sort of duplication of the same data, form in and form out, it is prone to error. The other thing is the other way around is to have it digital. You store it once, and then this is fused to all the relevant stakeholders, the same information. And with this way, you can have another one looking through this sort of information to check it for errors, and then it's free to be released. Instead of having all these manual entries, node in, node out. And of course, the penalties these days from unsuccessful compliance are quite high, and most of the companies might also lose their licenses, their permits, if they don't comply. So, what drives the organizations to go paperless? Intensive paper-based manual processes that are time-consuming, for example, shuffling paper around, copying, filing, refiling, reshuffling paper, resending paper, and so on and so forth. Paper documents that are very difficult to track. For example, you have a small truck and you deliver to, let's say, 100 different locations a day. You collect all the shipping notes signed from your clients' clients, your customers' customers. You have them signed, but when you try to submit them, when you try to hand them over to the warehouse, to your customer's warehouse, you find out that you've lost one or two of them. So what are you going to do? Issues like that are quite often in supply chains, in transportation chains. However, you could go by them, you could improve the system by going paperless. Managing high volumes of documents from different sources. If you are a freight forwarder, you receive faxes, emails, EDIs, LOTS systems, EDIFAX if you have older, or even telexes from many different sources and many different users. If you have all these different systems, it means that, well, actually, you have to have a different operator per system in order to cope with your customers' demands. Otherwise, the other way around would be to have all these systems being electronic, and you would have one collector from all these different subsystems. This collector gets all this information and fuses it, digitizes this information, and fuses to the relevant actors in your department. Now, high document processing and storage costs. Well, for some of you that reside in very expensive countries, you all know that real estate costs are quite high these days. Imagine having the obligation, the requirement to rent offices actually for being able to comply with the requirements, so that you can actually store, that is, all the information, all the documents that come into your company. Again, have this example on the back of your heads. You have a container ship, you're a freight forwarder, your client is a container ship that calls every 2 weeks in your port and discharges 2,000 containers and loads another 2,000 containers. Imagine the 4,000 bill of ladings that you would have to store every other week, and imagine the requirements in facilities. And that's why a lot of document intensive and paper intensive firms these days pay for outside storage, which is again another critical thing in the information changing. And of course the lack of visibility. In the previous example you have 4,000 different bills of lading, and your client X requires this bill of lading to review some of the information there. You have to go to the storage facility, search, to your storage facility that is, search for this document, for this bill of lading, send it to your customer. And what if this happened every 5th or every 10th bill of lading? You would have to employ another person in order to search for the different documents in this process. Well, this is very expensive as a habit these days, and having in mind that the companies have actually a very strong pressure to be as cost efficient as possible. Now, based on our experience so far, there are a couple of steps that you have to go through in order to become a paperless company. First of all, we always suggest to understand what the problem is and what the main reasons actually are for you to go paperless. Goals and requirements. You have to set specific goals, specific requirements, and specific actual metrics in this process. You have to map the current processes. You have to design the fit-for-purpose solution. You have to test it, develop it actually, test it and see if this meets the objectives, the goals and the requirements that we said before. You have to have a high-level buy-in, not only simple approval from the CEO or the COO of the company, but buy-in. The Chief Executive Officer has to be with you on this. Otherwise, this paperless venture will not materialize. And of course, it has to be implemented company-wide or system-wide. You have to see how this can be materialized throughout your company, and the companies that are interacting with you, how these companies will also be able to use this system. Some ideas there. Again, these are all document workflows from the managerial perspective. That is, if you were the manager, the chief executive or the chief operating officer in the company, these are issues that you would have to consider before even starting this change process, this change program. You have, in order to be successful in this task, in this activity, you have to involve all the key users and all the key departments, and you have to understand what the problem is. For example, is it paper reduction in the workplace? Is it too many file cabinets? Is it difficulty in finding information, or what sort of information should be found? Do you have offices spanning around the world, and it is very difficult for the offices, it's quite challenging for them to share documents on another, or it is very costly? Is there a security issue and you have documents moving around that shouldn't be moving around? Are there any industry or government regulations that you have to abide with, you have to comply with, and this system will help you? Are there just too many systems around that are siloed and not integrated with one another, so it is very, very difficult to distribute documents, to collect the documents and distribute them? Or is it the time and cost to retrieve and distribute these documents? How's the approval process going on? Is it easy or is it difficult? Do you have different systems there? Do you have fax machines or multifunction devices, scanners in place? And again, it's difficult to manage them and it's difficult to collect the information, as you also said before. What about sorting and delivery? Is it easy to sort out the documentation delivery to those that are relevant or competent to handle this information? What about inquiries? Is it easy? Is it hard to respond to inquiries from both your clients and the government and the competent authorities? For example, over here we're going to see a simple process where someone orders when someone orders something, what is happening in the company. So the executive view, the chief something officer is going to be seeing the following. The user fills out the requisition form, goes to the purchasing department to deliver the requisition. The purchasing department enters this purchase order in the system, it prints it out, it goes within the company to get the required approvals. It mails or faxes or sends the purchase order to the vendor, and at the same time it copies it into the file storage, and then it sends a copy to the accounting department, of course, to have a copy and be CC'd over there, and to the receiving department in order to prepare themselves for receiving. Now, the receiving department, once something arrives, they locate the receiving document, they match it with the shipping notification. Of course, they are alerted with an advanced shipping notification. They match it to the packing slip. They see that whatever the company has ordered is whatever has been delivered. They make notes of exceptions or of things that are outstanding or things that didn't go well. They accepts or rejects the order or partially accepts the order, makes copy of all this documentation, it files it locally and also files it actually with the rest of the company by sending copies to accounting departments, to purchasing, and to actually the user, the end user. And then this sort of information has to move on along the internal departments of the company to the accounts payable department, which receives again the documents, makes copies, files these copies, sends all the necessary copies along the approval chain to get all the necessary approvals. Matches the documents again, rechecks all the documents in case that there are non-conformities there. It has to follow another cycle of filing. It moves on forward to the general ledger, which enters a voucher, which prints and checks it, and matches all the checks with the paperwork. Again, another approval process, another approval loop over here, mails everything, and the vendor gets paid. Now, what I've said before, this is the user view of this process. You can see all the different steps over here in this information flow, in this information workflow, in this document workflow. You can see all the different steps in this workflow, all the different approvals that have to be taken care of, and all of the different departments that each single order has to pass through. Now, in the real world, what this would be, again, this is simply a bird's eye view of this one. The manual purchase order is approved or rejected. If it's approved, it's delivered to the approver. It's a simple. This one is a simple process. Now we are trying. What I want to say is that we are trying to see how this new process, this new workflow will look like after we start implementing change. We create this in the company ERP, which in this case it's the old process just digitized, is printed on a 3-part form, signed from the relevant approvers and moves on forward. Again, the receiving process in the real world, how does it look like? Again, it's the legacy project. It's the legacy process, with the exception that now we started using ERPs or entry-level ERPs. And we're going to discuss a little bit later on what are the do's and don'ts in BPM, in business process management, business process reengineering. Again, the accounts payable process in the real world, how does it look like? And now, let's see what are the goals and what are the requirements, what you need to accomplish. You have a set of goals, you have a set of requirements, the set of objectives that you have to abide with. First of all, you have to eliminate, you have to have as a target to eliminate paper-based retrieval. You have to provide immediate access to accounts payable and related documents, or any other specific process that you might have in your organization, or a specific request. In transportation organizations, this request is the advance notices, for example, the transportation orders, and so on and so forth. In the shipping companies, it's the bill of ladings and the accounts payable, and so on and so forth. You have to check exactly what your company needs and why it needs it. You automate routing of exceptions to the proper persons. You are streamlining workflows and you re-engineer workflows from scratch. You have to provide automated audit trails so that you can meet regulations. So that is, if someone enters the system and makes a change in the system, in the database, this has to be trailed. This has to be traced to the operator. Of course, and, the objective from the managerial perspective is to reduce people and costs by reducing time and reducing persons that are working on documentation. Another goal would be to eliminate off-site storage so that you can handle everything within your company without any security issues that off-site storage might have. Notification of all the exceptions is easier and should be easier through this BPM. More space is made available to money-making processes instead of documentation, which is not a money-making process in any way. Taking full advantage of different opportunities. In this example of the accounts payable, by being able to monitor specifically each vendor and each agreement that you have with your vendor, you can easily monitor what are the discount opportunities. The same thing would be with the transportation company. If you have everything into a single system, you can bundle different transport orders and different deliveries so that you can easily reduce costs, the transportation costs, and so on and so forth, consolidating these operations. Again, more what the company should accomplish from going digital, from going paperless. You can utilize immediate access to information for more timely and accurate analysis. You can provide access to all authorized users at any location from their workstation. No matter where your office is based, you can see the relevant information quite easily and quite timely. You can electronically capture different invoices when they arrive, and you can utilize digital workflows for approval, processing, paying, and accepting or rejecting these invoices, these e-invoices. You can reduce or eliminate the need for multiple copies of certain documents, or reduce labor and relevant expenses for processing these documents, from printing and copying to filing a document to searching for a specific document to accessing specific documents, so on and so forth. You can also reduce mailing and shipping costs. Imagine that all the different transportation orders, transport invoices, invoices in general, in a transport-related operation, are sent electronically. Reducing time and work effort, of course, is also relevant to the auditing. In case of an audit, you can easily trace something back and you can easily retrieve it and you can share it with the competent, with the relevant authorities. And of course, all the checking, all the monitoring is cheaper with these systems. However, in order to do that, there are a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself. Why, again from the managerial perspective, why you would move on with this, with improving or upgrading or updating your processes and your workflows, and have them and let them be paperless. So the first thing is that you have to ask yourself, you have to decide what are the manual steps in the processes, and of course what are the manual steps that have to be eliminated. For example, the photocopying or the delivery or the sorting or the following up, or all of them. And this leads us to the second question. If you decide to eliminate any step in this process, can this be eliminated by by automatizing this step? If not, then you will have to reconsider the first step. Then another thing is that we have to ask ourselves whether we can centralize all this information. Can we have all this information stored, can we have it stored centrally, or do we have to select a decentralized system, or you cannot store it neither centrally nor decentralized? Then again, how do you send your payments? How do you handle the receiving documents? Do you send your payments electronically, manually? Do you have checks? Do you have checkbooks that you are using? Can this be done electronically? And again, the receiving documents, the invoices, manuals, or documents in general, how do you handle them? Do you receive them electronically? Well, for simple companies, that's quite easy to say, because you just have one page and you could care less if this one page is printed or sent electronically. The difference between those two, especially in terms of cost, is pennies. The thing is that if you have a company that needs, for example, a very specific equipment in order to service their workstations, their equipment, if you have specific drawings, is it easy for you to send these drawings to all of the different potential vendors so that you can let them know what sort of equipment you need? For example, in the shipping industry, even in the most trivial equipment apparatuses, you have to be super precise on what this equipment is. Can you have it? Can you really send everything to, let's say, a magnitude of thousands potential vendors in order for them to place a proposal to you? And how about costs? What are the costs? Or again, in the shipping industry, let's say that a specific thing in the ship engines is broken down, ventilators or whatever. the manuals and the drawings for these are quite lengthy. So you would have to prepare everything, and you have to make photocopies of everything in order to send them to your vendors, to your potential vendors, in order for them to bid for this quote. Is it easily done or not? What do you think? And these are issues that have to be asked in this process. Now, the second thing, now we're going into the process mapping, into what the process looks like or what the process should look like. The first thing that I would like to tell you, I would like you to take from this training, from this course, is that process, it's more than just technology. You cannot really say at the end of the day, okay, I'm going to be using a new computer, a super fast computer, and then, well, just like that, everything is solved. No, unfortunately, it's not only technology. This is a bundle issue. For example, think of the different documents that you create or you receive or you send. You receive and send invoices, you receive packing lists, bills of lading, purchase orders, credit memos, debit memos, accounts payable checks and memos, pretty much everything that's out there for a commercial entity. Now, how can you send or receive them? You can send them using faxes, emails, mail, and the thing now is, how can you transform these into a digital, into a paperless office? You can scan them, but then again, it's the indexing issue that comes up. How can you index them in order for you to retrieve them easily? And how can you archive them? How can you retrieve them later on when you have already archived them? Or how can you send it out to other people for approval, to get alerts, to get notifications, and so on and so forth? And the last thing is that how can you integrate these different sub-processes into your business application? And, of course, building a robust process and integrating this robust process, this robust business process into your company is the main thing. Can you integrate this? At the end of the day, if you have an operator, an executive that is not quite up to the speed to be using computers and technology in general, can you have this process be transformed to a digital process? And then what? How can this operator work from now on? Again, these are issues that have to be carefully considered before doing the change and during mapping of the processes around your company. Now, how can you map the current process? How can you go? Well, one of my professors, when I was a student, used to say, well, there's only one way to map a process. Staple yourself to the process and move around. Well, actually, that's the most relevant and the most accurate way of doing it. And this is what you have to do. You have to move around the process, the chain of events in a company. You have to move around and you have to start asking what's happening and how this is happening. Now, you have to identify in this case, you have to identify what is the point of origin and the point of destination in this specific step, in this specific node. What are the decisions that are made in this specific node and where it ends? You also, when you are trying to map an entire process, as you're going to see later on, it's not similar to a task. A process is a set of different tasks. So you have to map all the different tasks that are pertinent to this process. You also have to identify all the personnel that is involved in this process, who does what and when, and identify the issues that the users come up with and how they solve these issues. And again, not only the current issues, but you also have to identify potential issues that could arise in the near future. And especially this holds true to when you are trying to re-engineer, to redefine the process. You have to carefully pinpoint all the different issues that may arise. Again, another thing is the integration points with core applications. Are there any issues in integrating with core business applications? If yes, what? For example, the company may have a may be using currently an ERP, and then this ERP it is difficult, I don't know, to enter specific sorts or specific bits of information. It has to be rearranged, or the digitization corner in the company has issues with documents of certain lengths, and so on and so forth. All these things have to be carefully considered. Again, things that are related to the specific documents or specific activities have to be addressed. If you have any issues, as I said before, any issues with the length of the documents or the size of the pages, are issues that have to be monitored, or issues pertinent to specific activities. This activity, for example, can be done only at night, or only during the morning, or the early hours, or whatever. All these problematic areas have to be addressed, as also have to be addressed opportunity areas, where I can save, or where I can have more value, I can create more value for my company. Then you have to design the solution, you have to test this solution. Many different scenarios have to be developed and have to be explored, so that you will be able to see the different and identify the different problems, and you can solve these problems during the inception phase and not let them arise or pick up during the actual implementation or during the usage. You have to validate the chosen scenario, the scenario that you're going to choose. You have to validate it with key users in this information loop. You have to identify the technology that is required. In this case, you may be speaking about, I don't know, entry-level computers, or maybe you could be discussing about digitizers or specific devices that digitize signatures, or anything else, or anything similar to that or pertinent to that. So there are a lot of different things relevant to the technologies. You have to identify changes to the business processes and the business rules. What are the changes that have to be enforced on the business process or the rule? For example, nowadays you have to have a specific purchase order being approved by 3 different, I don't know, or 2 different directors. But the cases, I think someone speaks. Or not, maybe not. I heard something. Okay, sorry. But it may be the case that this business rule is not applicable anymore. Then you have to prioritize the activities in the implementation plan. You have to prioritize the objectives and prioritize the measures that you're going to take. And you have to schedule regular reviews of the solutions that you have designed so far with the executive management, with this, especially the C-level management of the company. Now, some common pitfalls that are often seen: lack of communication between IT and users. I think that most of us remember this sort of pendulum and how this sling would be captured by the different operators, from the IT to the accounting to the sales to everyone else, and the different perspectives that everyone had. The lack of understanding from the vendor of what the problem really is. You know, you have a very, very specific problem. However, the vendor of the system might be offering you 10 times the problem, a system 10 times capable of the problem that you have, and of course 10 times more expensive, or even higher than that, than the budget that you have on your mind. Another thing is the resistance to change from the users. I'm used to doing certain things certain ways, and I'm not inclined or willing to change the way I'm doing stuff. System integration issues. Okay, you have a perfect system that you have developed, but it has a lot of issues in integrating with other systems, not only outside but even within the organization. For example, you have different input requirements from your company.